The 2026 petrol car market collapse is unstoppable. Yeah, go ahead, forget the headlines declaring the death of the electric car. Ignore the stories celebrating a supposed last-minute reprieve for the combustion engine in Europe. The real story, the one that actually matters, is playing out right now in spreadsheets and on factory floors in two of the biggest car markets on Earth. While European legacy car makers are patting themselves on the back for a battle they think they've won against the EU mandates, an American auto is patting itself on the back for what their president is doing to EVs, they're completely missing the economic tidal wave that's about to wash them away. The 2026 ICE car market collapse isn't some wild guess, it's a structural certainty. And the sales data coming out of the US, the EU, and more importantly China, proves the very foundation of the internal combustion engine is already crumbling. So have the giants that defined the 20th century managed to miss the single biggest wave of the 21st? This is Dave Takes It On. I'm Dave. It is a tale of two completely different realities. In Europe, some politicians and auto executives are breathing a collective sigh of relief. The original 2035 phase-out altogether of new combustion engines got softened with several loopholes. Well, these same politicians that voted unanimously a few years back for the mandate now have buckled under the pressure of the car industry to, well, change their minds. They're calling it a win for pragmatism and a victory for their multi-drivetrain strategy. But is it? The easing is very specific and deserves a closer look before we look into the real problem. The 100% switch to EVs by 2035 is now slashed right the way down to, 90%. See, that alone is an absolutely trivial change, but look at the small print. The 10% they claim they've won back must be made up by, amongst other things, e-fuels and low-carbon steel, and both present a challenge to the car industry. Take e-fuels. In 2024, we burned about 16 billion gallons of traditional fossil fuel petrol and diesel, and e-fuels produced, well, it's embarrassing, but the entire world e-fuel production in 2024 would fit into the existing number of petrol tankers we have on the UK roads. But worry not about that absolutely massive Herculean growth required. Worry instead about the oil giants. You see, they're already fighting a desperate mammoth battle to keep on drilling for dino fuels, to keep their oil rigs, their tankers, their refineries, dozens and dozens of petrol stations, and obscene profits going for as long as humanly possible. Or worry about the price of e-fuels. They're ridiculously more expensive to make and will remain so even if they ever get into mass production. Why do you think the oil giants are still so dominant? See, petrol is in fact so ridiculously cheap. It's not them that take the most money, it's the fuel duty and the taxes and the VAT that make it expensive. And don't for a second think e-fuels will be cheaper or tax-free. Biodiesel made from waste chip shop oil is taxed with fuel duty and VAT in the UK. Okay, we had our day. Time to make way for e-fuels? Well, they certainly haven't made way for EVs, so will the government say, OK, let's not tax this new fuel with fuel duty? Well, I have my doubts on both counts. Then there's that low-carbon steel, and that's a total misnomer because most people think it's low-carbon emissions. Oh, no, it isn't. It means the steel contains low amounts of carbon. It's done that for many decades because it's actually stronger. Now, what low-carbon steel means here is steel where the manufacturing, the smelting and so on is low carbon. And guess what? That doesn't exist either in any quantity because, well, make a guess. Yeah, it's dearer than coal and gas-produced steel. No commercial quantities of steel is yet readily available. There's a plant in Sweden powered by H2 hydrogen called H2 Green Steel that's building a new plant. Although, to be fair, it's already produced some steel. But guess how that is powered? Yeah, green hydrogen. The emphasis on green. So where is all that going to come from? So it's not the victory most people think. If 90% of new cars sold in 2036 are full BEVs, I'll be very happy. And if you can't get hold of these e-fuels at a sensible price, guess who will be queuing up to go electric? But isn't it ironic that the green steel and the e-fuels will both require huge quantities of cheap green electricity? Do they expect all the drivers to ignore that and head for the most expensive fuels they can still find? Or will they? At a certain level, sales of petrol and diesel, even e-fuels, will just become totally uneconomical. But meanwhile, something else is happening. BYD, company that's only stopped making pure gas cars back in 2022, announced it had produced its 7 millionth new energy vehicle. Now, it took them 13 years to build their first million, but the leap from 5 million to 7 million, that's just 7 months. That's not growth. That's a hostile takeover of what it means to build a car. And that's where our story really begins. If you want to understand the future of the auto industry, you have to look at China. Not just because it is the biggest market in the world, but because it's like a time machine. What's happening there today is what will be happening in Europe and the US tomorrow. Now, for years, the lazy argument against Chinese cars, well, they were just cheap knockoffs. That argument is now dangerously out of date. Throughout 2025, the market share for new energy vehicles, NEVs, has repeatedly pushed back past 50% in China. This isn't a transition anymore, it's a replacement. By 2026 end, analysts project NEVs will continue to make up the majority of all new car sales in the country. Well, this sheer scale is just staggering. This dominance is built on a brutal formula: speed, scale, price. While a brand like Volkswagen gets bogged down with software delays and high unit costs, BYD is launching entire families of cars. They launched the BYD Dolphin hatchback as a low-cost leader in markets like Australia, and then quickly prepared to follow it up with the even cheaper Seagull. And this isn't just a domestic phenomenon. BYD is expanding at a blistering pace, with its vehicles now in nearly 120 countries. This isn't a slow creep, it's a global blitz. Now, it's true this explosive growth is expected to slow down a bit as the Chinese government pulls back some incentive. But seeing this as a sign of weakness is a huge mistake. While analysts expect NEV growth in China to cool from over 25% this year to a more modest 13 or 14% in 2026, the likes of BYD will more than make up for that in the massively growing EV markets elsewhere in the world. That isn't failure, that's a sign of the Chinese market reaching maturity. The revolution is now just becoming worldwide. Well, across the Pacific, the story in the United States looks different on the surface, but the underlying mechanics are almost identical. The collapse here isn't a sudden cliff dive, but a slow grinding erosion of the legacy auto business model. In 2025, the US EV market share hit a new record, EVs nudging just past 9% in the third quarter. So looked at in isolation, seems pretty pathetic, but when you dig in, the cracks start to show. That growth is already hitting a wall. After the surge, the industry is now running into mainstream buyers who are still hesitant about price and charging. Forecasts for 2026 are modest, with the EV share expected to grow only slightly, if at all. So EV growth is slowing down and likely to do so for as long as this president tries to destroy them and the very reason for their existence, or one of them. Global warming. Oh, in case you haven't heard, it's a giant hoax like the 2020 election results. Well, to him, the answer is more petrol and diesel cars, and manufacturers have to be based in the US. Problem solved at the stroke of I was going to say pen, but it's a Sharpie, isn't it? And this is where the dilemma for companies like Ford and GM becomes painfully clear. They're getting squeezed from all sides. On one side, they just can't compete with the price and innovation, quality and technology of the Chinese EV makers. On the other, they can't make cheap cars of any sort of fuel in the USA anymore, as almost all the parts are made in Canada or Mexico or Brazil or Japan, and they all now attract massive tariffs. And tariffs mean more expensive US-made cars at a time when the existing dealers are absolutely overflowing with unsold new car stock. Say new car stock, in fact, they have approaching 4 million brand new cars in stock, and most by far are petrol or diesel. Yeah, they're losing ground to hybrids, a technology they were very slow to fully embrace. In Europe, for example, hybrid electric vehicles have become a massively popular choice, with sales surging, but mostly from foreign manufacturers like Hyundai, Kia, Mazda, Toyota. See, this isn't a victory. It's actually a trap. See, the legacy car makers are bleeding money on their EV divisions. GM just reported a massive $1.6 billion loss in its EV unit in a single quarter, while trying to sell highly profitable gas-guzzling trucks to fund that transition. They're losing a fortune to build EVs that are struggling to go mainstream, all while the market for their most popular gasoline, petrol cars, is being steadily eaten away. And that's the key. The great irony of 2026, on paper, European automakers like BMW and Volkswagen look like they've won this argument. That softer EU mandate gives them breathing room to keep selling the profitable hybrids and best petrol, gas cars their balance sheets desperately need. But who is going to buy them? See, Germany, EV sales are already 35% of the entire market. Read that the other way around. The ICE car market in Germany is now 35% smaller. So I ask you again, who's going to buy them? Well, it's not China. Volkswagen's operating profit fell by nearly a third in the first half of 2025. The company is wrestling with well over $200 billion in debt and weakening demand and intense pressure in China. VW's CEO put it bluntly, the main problem is that we have many crises at exactly the same time. Yeah, such a simple philosophy. As some people buy EVs, others will stop buying ICE cars. I'm amazed nobody else spotted this. Well, maybe they should turn to Norway for... Oh, sorry. Yeah, they're 97% EV only. Absolutely no market there. How about France, where EV market penetration is now 24.4% and petrol is 19.2%? Yeah. BEVs, battery only, now outsell more cars per year than petrol. Oh, and you might as well throw in diesel as well. BEVs, add them together, will still win. So their solution, well, it's the ostrich syndrome. Or in business terms, a frantic retreat back to making what made them so big and profitable for the last 100 years. Head in the sand. We know what we're doing. But a head in the sand fails to see that the entire world car market has simply moved on. The old ways have already gone. But occasionally, one of them will lift their head above the ground and see, well, they'll see all the other car makers with their heads in the sand, and that is now doubly scary for one simple fact. If all of the car makers in the world are struggling to sell ICE cars into a shrinking market, they're no longer fighting for their share of the ever-growing EV market. They're actually fighting for their share of this dwindling ICE car market against all the competitors. And here they know exactly what they're doing, exactly what they've done for the last 50 or 70 years. VW is now scrambling to put petrol engines back into their flagship platforms. BMW is playing the same game, praising its multi-drivetrain strategy as genius. And for right now, it helps them survive. They can sell a high-margin M3 in one showroom and an electric iX3 in another. But this isn't a strategy for winning the future. It's a strategy for surviving the present. The problem is you can't be half on a diet. It doesn't work. Building a world-class petrol or diesel car in 2026 involves a total reinvention of design, engines, gearboxes and technology. They really need to just start again with some brand new, exciting models. Now, EV native companies like Tesla, BYD, they're filing patents at twice the rate of the legacy rivals. However, VW's software division lost over €1 billion in 6 months. Meanwhile, BYD is literally building its own cargo ships to reduce shipping costs, making their EVs even cheaper in its global destiny. Legacy automakers are trapped. They're burdened by billions of debt and billions in infrastructure for a product that is already in decline. Every petrol car they sell is a step away from the future, and every EV they sell costs them a fortune, while still being of inferior technology and way too expensive for most buyers. So what is the 2026 petrol car market collapse? It's not a single moment. It's the year this unsustainable economic equation is likely to finally break. It's when the staggering losses from EV divisions can no longer be papered over by the shrinking profits from combustion engines. It's the year that the unstoppable momentum of companies in China like BYD, building millions of affordable high-tech EVs, becomes an undeniable force in every major market in the world. So that regulatory win in Europe is a mirage. Doesn't change the data, doesn't change consumer demand, and it sure doesn't change the fact that automakers in China are operating on a different planet of speed and scale. By 2026, global sale of electric cars are projected to hit 30% worldwide, meaning nearly 1 in 3 new cars sold will be electric. Put the other way, that's the ICE car market losing 30%. I know the percentages don't balance like that, but 30% of its customers. The foundation of the combustion engine market is imploding, not because of regulations, but because of a superior product and a superior manufacturing model. Legacy automakers aren't fighting a war against environmentalists, they're fighting a war against economic reality. And it's a war that they are set to lose. Collapse is already happening. We're just waiting for the rest of the world to notice. But what do you think? Are you seeing this shift where you live? Are the days of the petrol-powered car numbered? Or will the old guard find a way to fight back? Let me know in the comments down below. And if you do want more deep dives into the data that's shaping our world, please make sure to subscribe. I'm Dave.